All right. Sorry, it doesn't say live yet, so I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that you started it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bros Talking Soccer. Here we are again. Day 32 of the World Cup, July 15th. World Cup final day. It's just me and Dave here today, and we're going to wrap up the game, and we're going to wrap up a couple of topics we have just on the World Cup in general before next week, next Sunday, we go back to our regular podcast, which I know you all are so excited about. Everybody's missed it. Everyone misses the trivia question. I do specifically, so I know you all do. And Dave, you ready to get started here?
I am ready. Yeah, Matt is on his way back to school, I believe. He is our other brother in case you are joining for the first time. So he is sometimes here. I feel like he's been off doing things throughout this World Cup, but we promise he does exist, and he will hopefully be here next week.
Yeah, he was here yesterday. So, well, no, he wasn't. No, he
wasn't.
I thought he was. He was here for the semifinal, though. All right. So you ready to hop into this game, Dave?
Let's do it.
All right. So World Cup final. France, congratulations, win the World Cup 4-2 over Croatia. It was a very high-scoring game for a final, Dave. What are your overall thoughts on it?
I thought Croatia came out and was taking it to France to a certain extent. They were the ones dictating play pretty much throughout the match. I didn't think France had, really a ton of control. They didn't have a ton of clear-cut chances. And I mean, France just took their opportunities when they came. They got into half up, and Croatia was always kind of fighting back into it from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Croatia were the better team, in my opinion, on the day. And France just know when to take their opportunities. They have the star players, and all their star players stepped up today. They pretty much all scored, the players you think, Griezmann, Pogba, and Mbappe. They really just were the stars on the day, and that's what you need from your big players.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, they stepped up. I mean, I didn't think Mbappe actually played well until the second half. I didn't think he played great in the first half. I didn't think any really French players played exceptionally well in the first half. I'll say that. And so Mbappe got his goal in the second. Griezmann, put the free kick in a dangerous position. Pogba had a fantastic game. I think overall, he was France's best player throughout the match. But yeah, I mean, nothing else really to say beyond that. I will say I think Croatia had the better of play from open play just because they were dictating the play. They had the ball more. I think France was content to let them do that, and they came out just with that game plan like we kind of discussed yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely did. All right, you want to talk about the goals? Want to go in? Goal for goal here?
Let's do it.
So, first goal was scored by France against the run of play completely. You probably agree with that. So, this one's a little bit contentious here. So, Griezmann goes down around, 30 yards out, you'd say? About on the right side of the box. And the ball just... Okay, so first of all, the ref calls a foul. He went down. It looked kind of like there may have been contact in live time, but after you see the replays, he clearly wasn't touched until he was already falling down. In my opinion, this is not a foul. What do you think?
So I think it is a foul because you can see it coming from not a mile away, but a second before that play happens. You know exactly what Griezmann is trying to do, and you know exactly what Brozovic is going to do. He's coming in with a ton of pace. Brozovic is coming in with a ton of pace at Griezmann, and Griezmann knows that he just needs to touch the ball out a little bit, and that contact's going to come. You see that all the time from players, and yes, Griezmann does go down, but Brozovic does kind of run into him. And so at the end of the day, it's tough to overturn this. I know Twitter was freaking out saying VAR should have overturned this. I don't think you can overturn this. I would have been fine if he didn't call the foul, but I'm fine that he did call the foul there.
I really disagree. I think that the referee got this one wrong. And if VAR is there to prevent goals from referees making clear and obvious errors, which this is, in my opinion, then it should be overturned.
He goes down easy.
He goes down before the player got there.
And
he's
then the
already
player
in the air,
runs into
and he
him.
also is doing what Neymar does, where you kick out at the defender and make it look like it was a foul.
No.
Neymar does that all the time. Yes, he did.
No, on this one, he didn't kick out that much. Brozovic runs into the back of him. Yes, he's already going down, but Brozovic runs into the back of him.
Yeah, I disagree. All right. Okay. Well, okay, so there's the first part. So the second part, the actual free kick is taken by Griezmann, and it's served in to a dangerous area around the penalty spot, flicked on by Mandzukic, the Croatian striker, into his own net. What did you think of the goal?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate deflection from Mandzukic. I've been highlighting this over the last few matches for Croatia. They defend free kicks very deep, and so they're in what's up.
You said defriend.
Defend. We're no friends. We're not friends anymore. I defriended you on Facebook.
You.
Yes. No, but they defend free kicks pretty deep. They have their guys about 12 yards out, so penalty spot in behind. They don't run at their own net, and so they kind of made this conscious decision to not have their players sprint at their own net, and they try to defend it that way. Unfortunate deflection from Mandzukic. Was it Pogba challenging? Whoever was challenging did a good job of putting the pressure on Mandzukic to kind of force that. I think
Varane also came off over in front as well, so there was a couple of players kind of blocking his view, and I don't really blame Mandzukic for the own goal.
Yeah, and I mean, Griezmann does the right thing, put the free kick on target in a dangerous area, and it gets deflected in. Matt, so our other brother who's not with us, brought this up on Twitter, or on our text, whatever the hell thread. He said, why isn't it a goal for Griezmann? I mean, it was on target. Why is that no goal?
So the way I think that it's decided is if it's a clear shot that's on target, is different than if it's a ball that's just kind of floating towards the target. That was clearly a cross, not meant to be a shot on target, and it is deflected, and it was not a dangerous situation. The goalie clearly would have had it. I think that's a different situation.
Fair enough. I'd never heard that before, but that seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, that's why I think that it's a clear own goal, in my opinion, and I think that's why it's registered that way. Yeah? You like that?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Can't argue that.
All right. So, actually, hold on. I forgot what the minutes were of all the goals, so I need to pull that up.
That was in the 18th minute.
So that was the 18th minute. So play gets back in, and that was a weird way to say that. So the ball gets back in play here. Yeah. And second goal comes in the 29th minute. There it is. Okay, and this is a goal for Perisic off of a free kick for Croatia. So what'd you think of the free kick?
Yeah, so the free kick routine was clearly designed to designed to have somewhat of the desired outcome. There was a little bit of bouncing around, but Croatia had all of their players kind of along the 18 sort of drifted to the left side of the box. Modric floats it into Vrsaljko, who's making a late run down the right side of the penalty area. They float it in there. Vrsaljko wins the header. Now the header he wins, he pops it really high up. And, you know, when you're trying to put the header back across the box, you're not really trying to do that. And so that's why the play kind of breaks down a little bit. But Croatia does a fantastic job of winning the next two 50-50 balls. Mandzukic bodies off, I think it was Pogba, but he does a good job of just bodying off the defender who's trying to win the ball. And Mandzukic actually doesn't even jump on the second ball and just gets his head to it. He flicks it over more towards the center of the box, again, just into a danger area. Vida, the center back for Croatia, does a good job of getting to it, is able to maintain possession for Croatia, lays it back. He's got his back to goal. He lays it back to Perisic. The ball is still kind of bouncing at this point. Perisic does a fantastic job of faking kind of a shot or just at least taking a touch with his right foot back across his body, completely wrong foots the defender, and then just blasts it into the far post. So, you know, just a really well-worked design on the free kick and really just good commitment from the Croatian defenders or Croatian attackers to just keep after the ball and create that goal for me.
You know, it's funny to say it that way because they were technically all defenders pretty much that were involved in the play. But, yeah, Modric, that ball is just perfectly floated in. What's the guy's? Vrsaljko. Vrsaljko is the one who won the first header. Yeah, he does a good job of keeping it alive. Yeah, he wasn't meaning to head the ball the way that he did. But Mandzukic knows how to use his body in the box, holds off a defender. Lovren gets a touch on it. Vida lays it off. It seemed like everybody was getting a touch for Croatia in the box. Which, when the ball's in the box for that long, I think France have to defend it better as well. I know that it's bouncing around and it's hard to follow, but there were a lot of different players who touched that ball, and it wasn't like they were doing tiki-taka 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. The ball was bouncing around, and it seemed like France were just slow to get to it.
Yeah, and you could argue that France got too deep. So there were a ton of French defenders in the box, but almost all of them were behind Croatian attackers
absolutely.
In that sense. And so, I mean, the
ball seemed to be floating back further and further with every person who touched it.
Exactly. And there wasn't a French defender anywhere near the penalty area, like in that second line of Croatian, attackers. Kind of, there was no one at the top of the box. I know Conte closed down Perisic when he got the ball, but he was still in space to collect it there.
Yeah, I absolutely think Conte should have done better, honestly, closing down Perisic. He kind of let him run by, and I didn't think Conte had a great game overall, which was a little bit disappointing, but he was massive for them on their run to get to this point, and he always is someone who's just going to break down the play, and he's not somebody who's great in possession, but he rarely makes mistakes, and he didn't have a great game today, but he deserves plaudits for what he did in this tournament.
I agree with that. Yeah, I know he picked up an early yellow card. He was subbed out early in the match, and so again, both those were kind of surprising because he usually is a little bit better. But he played fantastic this entire tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And that touch from Perisic was just fantastic. Opens up his left foot and just smashes it far post. Lloris had no chance. And just news coming in right now. Mbappe won the silver ball, and Modric just won the gold ball. So he was the best player of the tournament. That is happening right now on the TV behind me. So
live news, breaking.
Live news. Here you go. If you're watching live, here you go.
Do we want to talk about it, or do we want to talk about it after?
We'll get to it after.
Okay, sounds good.
So 39th minute, well, I guess it was 37th minute is when all of the nonsense happened. The goal happens in the 39th minute. It's not really nonsense, but it's just a lot of shit happened. Okay, so the corner is given up by Vida. I don't really think he was under a lot of pressure, and the clearance wasn't great. He gives up a corner to France. The ball is swung in. So it wasn't. Nobody got a touch on the ball right before. It was just did Griezmann duck out of the way? Is that what happened?
I think it was Matuidi, but even before that, I just want to highlight Mbappe is the one closing down on Vida, and it might be that Mbappe at this point just has that cachet of like this ridiculous attacker, and just his presence being there may have forced that from Vida to make that mistake to give up the corner. So I just wanted to highlight that.
It's just he was not close to the end line or the goal line, so it was a little bit surprising that he gave up a corner instead of just kicking it out for a throw in or just clearing the ball out up the field. But
okay, I might be remembering a different one. Is this the one where the ball was played long and Mbappe is coming in and Vida heads it back out for a corner, or no? Am I thinking of a completely different play?
I think it is that. Yeah, I think it was that one.
Yeah, so he heads it. I mean, Mbappe is closing in. He could have gotten himself into better position, but it's just Mbappe's presence.
Yeah, I agree. Mbappe just has so much pace that it's terrifying for a defender, but you have to be more composed. You have to just handle the situation better. And I know you're just told to clear the ball out. If it's a corner, yeah, we can defend the corner now, but I still think he could have done better with it. So the ball gets swung in, and at the near post, Matuidi kind of ducks out of the way. I don't think he got a touch on the ball, and it hits Perisic on his arm, which is just slightly above his thigh. It is a handball, and I agree. And the France players just like freak out and just start screaming at the referee. The referee calls a corner, I believe. Well, I mean, he should have called a corner at least initially, and then is sitting there. They're waiting for VAR to signal the referee. The referee goes to check the monitor. We get the big signal here if you're watching on YouTube. And he reviews for quite a while. He definitely wanted to make sure he got it right. And
he went back.
Then he came out for a little bit and then went back to check one more time. Comes out, decides, yes, it was a penalty. It's a handball on Perisic. And Griezmann steps up, slots it to the left-hand side of the goal. Goalkeeper goes the wrong way. What do you think of the whole play, Dave?
For me, it's so tough that this is called a handball. I understand that it's called a handball, but what are people supposed to do with their hands? Like, they say it's an unnatural position, but when you jump, I mean, where you don't jump with your hands behind your back, that's an unnatural position. If you look at every other defender in the box, they are defending standing, or at least in the exact same position that Perisic is in. They're not making a play on the ball. And even later in the game, I think it was like the 93rd minute, Vida has the ball hit his hand, and Stu Holden says he doesn't have enough time to react, and that was, a natural position, and that's why it wasn't given. And it's this like such a double standard. Like, the ball is whipped in on this corner. Matuidi gets in front of Perisic, possibly gets the deflection, possibly not. But at the end of the day, Perisic knows nothing about that handball. And I get that it hits his hand and it's possibly going on target. And so I get that those are being called, but it's slightly frustrating. Earlier in the tournament, we saw I think it was Falcao Who got called with? Yeah, Versalco I think got called with a penalty for having his hand up. The Danish guy Poulsen got called for on a penalty. Both of those, their hands were up at least shoulder height or a bit higher. Like I just think this was really rough on Perisic, and I get that it was called, but for me, I just think it was slightly harsh.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the one that actually Vita did later in the game was more of a handball than the one that they actually called. I think at that point they're not going to review it. It was already 4-2. The game was practically over in the 93rd minute. But I think that was more of a handball than the one Perisic did. Honestly, where are you supposed to put your hand? Do they expect you to have your arms behind your back at all times when you're defending a corner or defending a shot? That's not really fair. And I understand why it's called. I know why it was reviewed. I understand. But I just think it is really harsh, and it completely changes the outlook of the game there.
Yeah, and that was France's first shot on target. So they go into halftime up 2-1 with one shot on target.
Yep. I think it was 61% possession at halftime for Croatia, 7 shots, 1 for France. Croatia completely controlled that first half and looked the dominant team. It's just France got their 2 chances and took them. Yeah.
Yep. Well
Anything
said.
else
you
want to add about the first half?
No, I thought Croatia was the better side from open play.
Yep. So Croatia, I think, starts the second half similar and continues to control the play. First 10, 15 minutes, they are completely in control. They're dominating the game. Pogba comes up with probably the pass of the tournament, if you ask me. That was absolutely absurd, where he played the ball probably halfway into his own half on the volley, side foot, plays it through the 2 center backs of Croatia with spin to spin it out wide, and Mbappe runs onto it. Let's start with that. What on earth? Wow.
To weight that ball as perfectly as he did, to hit it exactly where he hit it, to put the spin on it, like everything about that is just mind-blowing. The fact that it was a half volley, so the ball's not, yes, you can kind of understand how it's going to bounce, but you don't know exactly. To hit it again with the spin, to hit it with the pace that he hit it with. That ball was just so next level. It was insane.
Yeah, and honestly, I said it initially. I said, oof. That ball is absolutely ridiculous. I hope they score on this because that deserves a goal. And it was even better that the guy who made the pass ends up getting the goal. So Mbappe, does he lay it off or does it get deflected out to Pogba? When he tries to cross the ball.
He crosses it.
Goal. Yeah. And it gets deflected out by the defender, falls to Pogba, who made that 70-yard run up the field just to catch up to the play, which has to be applauded as well. Gets the ball at his feet. Kicks it left-footed right to the left side of the goal. Goalkeeper doesn't even move. That's another issue, which I just don't even want to go into. I don't think he was going to save it anyway, but he didn't even look like he was going to attempt, and he did that twice in this game, which we'll get to the second one after this. Yeah, Dave, what do you think about that finish?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic finish, but I don't think you mentioned that Pogba hits a shot and it gets deflected back to him, which is why Subasic is kind of unsighted, right? And it's why he's leaning the wrong way. So the ball gets deflected back to Pogba. I think it may have been deflected on the cross and then may have been laid back. I
don't remember that, actually.
Yeah, Pogba rips a shot with his right foot. It gets blocked and then it bounces back to him.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah, you're right. But he takes a touch first. It's not like he hit it first time.
I know, but the goalkeeper's a little bit unsighted. Yes, he could have done better. And, we still haven't heard. I mean, Subasic hasn't looked right since he had that injury to his hamstring or whatever. He hasn't looked quite as explosive on like dives and things like that. I don't know if he's picking up, if he has a knock or something like that. Yes, you can fault him for not making a better attempt on that. But I mean, I don't know. There's a lot going on there and Pogba places it well.
Okay. Yeah. And that's fair. I think that Pogba did place it really well, and goalkeeper is wrong-footed. The field was very wet. You could see players slipping all over the place, and the ball was moving very quick. Yeah, I mean, I don't really fault Subasic, but I think he could have done better.
Fair enough. Can we talk about 2 things before this goal? So, first off, what the hell was happening with the pitch invaders? So I was on, a friend got married, so congrats to Tommy if you hear this. So somebody's got engaged, so congrats to Tommy. But what the hell? So I was watching on mute while I was talking to him. There was like 4 pitch invaders. What the hell was happening there? Did they address that?
So I didn't see this, but somebody sent me information on this and said it was a women activist group sent them out to like make a statement, and they took responsibility for it. I think I don't want to actually. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but that's just like
Okay.
they took credit for it and said that this was
So
their
this was like some
responsibility.
sort of coordinated activity. This wasn't just
Yes.
like drunk people. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So there's that. So I wanted to just address that in some way. And then Conte came off in the 54th minute, which was super early. I mean, he usually goes 90 minutes, and it was really interesting to see him taken off for Nzonzi in the 54th. So I just wanted to highlight those because Pogba's goal came in the 59th.
Yep. Anything else you wanted to add before we move on to the fourth goal
Nope.
for
Let's talk
France?
about it.
Okay. All right. Fourth goal for France. The kid, here he is, picks up the ball. It's well, I guess I'll start with Hernandez, is I guess that's how you pronounce his name.
Hernandez.
Teo Hernandez comes down the left wing and plays the ball kind of back to the top of the box, about 20 yards out. Mbappe takes a touch. Vida does not close him down quickly enough and is probably 3, 4, 5 yards away from him at that time. Takes a touch. Vida still doesn't come to close him down. And Mbappe just makes it look like he's going to shoot it to the right-hand far post and cuts it near post, completely wrong-footing both Vida and Subasic on the play. Again, I think Subasic should do better. You have to always guard your front post first. But the finish is just hit with power and accuracy. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so you feel for Vida in that situation. You have Mbappe, who is this pacey player. He just torches defenders one-on-one. And so you can kind of understand him not wanting to get too close. Now, having said that, yes, after the fact that the shot goes in, he needed to be closer. He needed to cut down angles. It's in the middle of the pitch, so it's not easy for Vida to force him one way or another. I mean, looking back in hindsight, he should have just cut down at least. You know, when you're a defender in that situation, you want to at least take away half of the goal so that if the goalkeeper, you know, can at least hedge his bets to one side, and if, you know, if the attacker megs you and, you know, gets a shot off or gets a deflection and goes in the side that the defender is, at least you can say that you were trying to cover a side. Here, Vida doesn't really take a side one way or another, and it's tough for Subasic to kind of position himself correctly. And, you know, one touch from Mbappe and Vida kind of turns his body, opens up the space, and, you know, he just kind of uses Vida almost as a shield for Subasic to, you know, screen, like in hockey where players are screened and you can't see where the shot is coming from. And, you know, he does fantastic. I mean, Mbappe is incredible.
Yeah, he is. He's got that pace. He's got the ability one-on-one, and he can finish. So it's really difficult for a defender, but you always have to close down half the goal. And the way he lined up, you could clearly tell he was going to shoot. So Vida has to close down quicker than that.
Yeah, and force him onto what's left. I mean, I can't remember too many opportunities that I can think of with Mbappe kind of loading up and uncorking one with his left foot. So I don't know. I probably would have tried to force him left in
Absolutely.
that instance.
You always try and force them weak foot. Yeah, professionals should be able to hit the ball with both of their feet, but you know that they don't. And that's just common knowledge. You know that, and you should try and always force them one way. And
Yeah,
I know it's easier said than done.
Easier said than done for us sitting here. You know, we're not defending, you know, arguably the next best great player.
Yeah, that's true. And that's his fourth goal of the tournament in 7 games, and he's 19 years old. So doesn't that make you feel terrible, everybody? So anything else you want to add on this goal?
No, just, you know, happy for Mbappe to get a goal. I think he earned it. I mean, this is just clearly like breakout tournament. I mean, he is next in line to dominate kind of world soccer for the next few years.
Yeah, it seems that way. So 4 minutes later, we got another goal. 6th goal of the game, 4-2. Croatia score through Mandzukic. So what happened here is Lloris gets the ball at his feet and tries to pull a move on Mandzukic inside his own 6-yard box, tries to go back to his strong foot, so he's left-footed, tries to cut it back. Mandzukic is closing down his left side, and just Lloris touches the ball to try and get it by Mandzukic. Mandzukic sticks out a right foot and taps it into the empty goal. What on earth was he thinking, Dave?
I don't know. I mean, clearly this was a lapse of judgment. This was, I don't know, them being up 4-1 and him taking risks that he wouldn't normally take, because as a goalkeeper, what you do there is the ball is coming in. Mandzukic is pressuring him from Lloris's left. So Lloris takes a touch to the right and just passes it, or at least clears it off. Even if it's with his weaker foot, he just gets it away from pressure. I think this is him being up 4-1, maybe not thinking, as much, and just, maybe saying, hey, we can take a risk, even if it's like the slightest like inclination that he wasn't completely locked in. I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he just kind of had a lapse in concentration there, and it's because of the situation they were in. They were up by 3 goals. They were in a dominant position, but that really could change things, and it clearly brought Croatia to life. And if Croatia had scored in the next 10 or 15 minutes, we could have seen a really hectic France for the last couple minutes, and that should never happen from a goalkeeping mistake.
Yeah, I'm not excusing it by any way. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to get in his mind to try to figure out what could have possibly happened to cause that, and that's my only, thought.
Yeah, and it's just so this game had everything that this tournament provided us already. It had own goal. It had a bunch of set piece goals. It had goalkeeping errors. It just had goals galore. It was really just a summation of the entire tournament, and that's really kind of unique in the way that we saw that. I think the highest goal scoring final was 7 goals, is what I heard, and this one was 6. So it was definitely a fun game to watch. Is there anything else you wanted to highlight before the end of the game?
A couple things. So Will, who's joining us on YouTube, we've had him on before. He's from Tottenham Hotspur World, but he said Spurs fans are used to Hugo making a couple crazy mistakes every so often. They still love him though, and I think this was one of those moments. I think he's a fantastic shot stopper, but some of the decisions he makes sometimes can be a bit confusing. So he wanted to highlight that. I thought Modric played a fantastic game. I thought Perisic, particularly in the first half, but really kind of throughout the game, played really well for Croatia, as did Mandzukic. I thought he played, again, particularly well in the first half, had some good hold-up play, and was just a warrior throughout the tournament. And, Pogba was France's best player, in my opinion. So those were the things I wanted to highlight.
All right. Anything else from this game, or anything you want to highlight on France and Croatia before we move along?
So Will wanted to ask us our thoughts on Giroux, kind of his performance throughout the World Cup. So he didn't score at all during the World Cup, but he was influential. So Christian, what are your thoughts on Giroux for Will?
He definitely was influential. He was a key part of that France attack. He was able to link up with the players. He was able to hold up the ball a little bit. He was just being marked by defenders, staying high all the time, had somebody on him, and was just taking up or freeing up space for a lot of his teammates, something that they weren't doing in that first game. So he was absolutely a key part of their attack. That being said, he did not take his chances when they came. He didn't really get himself into open positions a lot in the box to get shots away, in my opinion. He had a couple of chances, but not that many, and you expect better of a world champion striker right now, but I think he played his role, and although he wasn't prolific in front of goal, he was absolutely necessary for the France squad.
And I'm going to echo that. I mean, I've been saying it for a while. France's entire team dynamic changed when he came in against Australia, and then that was their strongest lineup, and that's what they've used through the remainder of the tournament. I mean, without him in there, this lineup doesn't work, and all the pieces don't function the way that they did. And, him being in there just frees up space, like Christian, you were saying. And so, I don't have too much else to add. I thought he should have gotten some goals, particularly the match before when he, had some opportunities and was kind of falling over himself. You could see he was kind of in his head. So yes, you want to see more from him in front of goal, but he's not just a striker that only has to score to make an impact on the game. And so, yeah, I thought he was very influential and critical to France winning this World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions that we had?
Nope, those were the only two. But anybody, if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to interact with us as we're going along here. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else from the game, Dave?
Nothing else from the game. I got, my list and notes of everything else we wanted to talk about.
All right. So you ready to hop into it?
Oh, I'm ready to hop into it. Do you want me?
Hop into it.
Okay.
All right. Okay, ready? It sounded like you were going to say something else.
Well, do we want to plug Stadium Scene here? Let me plug Stadium Scene. So Stadium Scene, our partner, stadiumscene.tv, is a travel blog. So if you're going to a stadium in the U.S., you want to go check out stadiumscene.tv. They have recommendations on where to park, bars and restaurants to check out before you go to the game and after you go to the game. So you want to check them out. In addition to that, they partner with content creators like us at Bros Talking Soccer. They partner with all different kinds of sports and content creators, blogs, podcasts, YouTube videos, and more. Please go check out stadiumscene.tv. Christian, back to you.
All right. So thank you for that commercial. That was really nice.
Oh,
break.
yeah.
I got to watch some of the highlights that are still floating on the screen here. Pogba did take that shot first time on his left foot when it came back to him. So I guess that's a little harsh on Subasic, what I was saying before. But still, I think he should do better.
Okay.
His shot actually was not really in the corner, and it was not that far away from him. He was just going the wrong way.
Yeah, but things were happening quickly.
Yeah, I know, but I just wanted to throw that in there.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
We can move along from this game now.
Okay.
So, first thing I wanted to discuss was what teams were the most impressive and which were the most disappointing in this World Cup for you.
So most impressive, I mean, it's got to be Croatia. I mean, as much as, you had them as the dark horse to reach the semifinals, I mean, very few people had them reaching the final through all the adversity that they had to deal with, both before the tournament and all the stuff, Mark Lawson highlighted before we did our pre-World Cup podcast. And then, as other things have come to light, they had a player sent home. They had 3 consecutive overtime or extra time matches that they prevailed in. And so, I mean, Croatia, hands down, probably the most impressive team. England, I mean, reaching the semifinals with that young squad, I mean, they were really impressive for me. I had extremely low expectations of Japan, and so the fact that Japan got out of their group, I thought was pretty impressive. And then Sweden making the run that they did. Again, I thought that they were organized defensively, but I didn't have them making the quarterfinals in my bracket. So props to Sweden. So those were the 4 teams that I was most impressed with.
Okay. So, in my opinion, I was really impressed with Russia and the run they made. That was really surprising. They did a great job as hosts, just making their country believe. They got themselves excited. And who knows what this could do for their soccer culture? Who knows? Like, what will happen in 2 years at Euro? Will they make a run again? They did it in 2008, so you never know. And they had a very, very good showing. I was not sold on the way they played, but they got results when they needed to, and they beat Spain, who was one of the favorites for the tournament. So even though Spain dominated that game, it's grinding out results, as we've discussed in the past, and they were able to do that. Another team that I don't want to highlight the same ones as you, but I was
sorry,
most of them. It's okay. That's all right. I was impressed with Denmark. I know they came out of the group, and it wasn't like the flashiest, but they gave Croatia a run for their money in that first knockout game. And obviously Croatia's my favorite of the teams that impressed me, but Denmark really were good. And if they get through that penalty shootout, who knows how far they could have gotten. And I really, really, really like them. I don't know what it is, but there's something about their play that...
Really?
Yeah, there's something about them. I just was impressed with, like, they almost made it to the quarterfinals and they don't have that star quality. But they're able to grind out results. He's the only one, though. I mean, Poulsen's young and looks like he's going to be a pretty good player.
Is he that young?
But
I think he's mid-20s. I don't know how young Poulsen is.
Is he really? Oh,
yeah.
I thought he was younger.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
But I mean,
you want me to take it back then, or
well, no, I'm just debating. Well, no, you don't. You can do whatever you want. I'm just debating. Just because I mean, they didn't play particularly impressive. I thought that they were overly defensive. They didn't really look great going forward. They were kind of just counterattacking. And so for me, I wasn't overly impressed with Denmark. They put up a good fight against Croatia and took them to penalties. So there's something to be said for that. But I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed with them.
Okay. But all right, that's fine. You don't have to be. I was.
Good.
And then I just want to highlight Peru and Morocco. I know they didn't get out of the group, but I really, really liked their just style of play. They were ultra attacking, really, really fun to watch. And that's the harsh reality of this tournament. If you don't get the results, if you don't take your chances, you're going to go out early. And both of them were out before even the last group game, which was really sad. It would have been fun to see them in the knockout stage to see if they could just grab goals to keep putting teams on the back foot. But we weren't able to see it. Hopefully they continue to improve and we'll see them a little bit more in the next coming years. But this may have been their best shot, unfortunately. And I hope it's not.
Yeah, we never know. Just to circle back, so Poulsen just turned 24, so he is still fairly young. Okay.
I mean, I know I'm right, so it's no big deal.
Whatever.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So teams that disappointed you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm only going to do one, and then we can go back and forth, so I don't take all of them at front. But I'm going to take the most obvious one. It's Germany. I mean, obviously they were just I don't know what the hell happened. They just were not on the same page tactically. They just got it wrong in almost all of their matches. I mean, yes, they got a victory against Sweden, but it took the 95th minute. They lost their other two matches. And so for me, I mean, Germany was the most disappointing team at the World Cup.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you that they are by far the most disappointing, but I have to put Argentina up there as well. And I know you had no expectations.
Yeah, I had such low expectations
but they have such attacking quality that I know they scored 3 goals in the game they went out, but you have to expect more of a team that made the final 4 years ago and does have the ability. They have players playing at the highest level. They have Otamendi at Man City, and I know you're not sold on him, but he's playing at the best team in England, one of the best teams in Europe, and he's their starting center back. So you have to expect better of them. And the fact that Mascherano had to play at 36 years old is just a killer blow for them, in my opinion. He didn't have the energy that he once had. But I expected a lot more of them. So it was upsetting to me to watch them kind of crumble the way that they did.
Fair enough. Another team that, I mean, I wasn't disappointed at them kind of on the whole, but more disappointed in their last game. I wanted to highlight Colombia and the way that they came out and played against England. And it was similar to how they played against Brazil the last World Cup. And they were just so intent on just making the game physical and fouling and trying to just break up the game and not play soccer, when in their group stage matches, when they came out and tried to play, they were exciting. They were fun to watch and they got results. You know, the Japan game, they played down a man for 87 minutes and arguably were the better side. So for me, it was just so disappointing having them come out with the tactics that they lined up in to start that match, having 3 defensive center midfielders against England, and then just coming out and just intent on fouling and then crowding the referee and yelling at him. For me, I was disappointed at Colombia, more so on how they went out.
Okay. And I agree with you. I think that they were disappointing, specifically against England, and they were very entertaining in the group stage. So that was good analysis.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I try.
You're welcome. Yeah, very good. Another team that really disappointed me, and I had high expectations of them, was Senegal. I really, really liked the way they played, and I really expected them to at least make the quarterfinals. I know that sounds like surprising to you because you're making a face at me, but I really expected them. I expected them to face off against either England or Belgium and give them a game. I really liked the players that they have.
But they went out on fair play points. Like they played fairly well.
But they also collapsed twice against Japan. You can't lead twice and not walk away with the result. And I think that was the killer blow. And then against Colombia, they lose 1-0 when all they know they have to do is at least get a draw, and they didn't. And if they did, we might still, I don't know, see them in the quarterfinals. They were very entertaining. They're fast. They were a fun attacking team, and they had the quality in the back, in my opinion, but they just couldn't get it done at the biggest stage.
Fair enough. One more team I just want to throw out was Poland. I thought that I just had higher expectations for them, and they just completely underwhelmed. Even in the match against Japan that they won, they just didn't have any attacking play for any attacking movements from open play where they were able to create goals. It was very much focused on trying to get the ball to Lewandowski and see if he could do anything. And so they scored on some set pieces, and beyond that, they really weren't able to create much. And so I just had higher expectations for them. So I just wanted to highlight them real quick.
Yeah, and then just quick, not even really much to say, is Egypt were just awful. I don't know what happened to them, but I actually had them coming through this group, and they were not even close to coming out of this group. They were really, really poor. And that's really all I have to say about it. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Nope. I had them listed here too, so I'm on the same page as you.
All right. So you want to highlight some players you were impressed with and disappointed with during the tournament?
Yep.
All right, go ahead. Who are you impressed with?
All right, so we'll do one,
like 3 or so.
Sure, but do you want to go back and forth? So we don't.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, let's go back and forth, but we'll do 3 each. I mean, Rebic, I've been touting him for the last few podcasts. I don't think he played well in the final, but I was impressed with him in the other matches. I thought he had some positional flexibility. I thought that he was just a tireless worker on the outside, had some good dribbling skills. Wasn't the greatest crosser of the ball, but again, I was impressed with him during this tournament. So he's a winger for Croatia, in case anybody doesn't know. Yeah.
I did know.
I know, but you're not the only person.
Are you sure?
Yes. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's what the computer tells me. The computer could be lying to me.
The player I think I was most impressed with during the entire tournament, it's not Modric, it was Hazard. I really, really was impressed with the way that he just controlled the ball every time he had it. He rarely turned it over, just was able to dribble by players, was able to create for his team. I was impressed with all three of the front three from Belgium. So, like, Kevin De Bruyne and Hazard and Lukaku were so good going forward, specifically on the counterattack. And although maybe they didn't bang in goals all the time, they were creating chances over and over and over again. And I think Hazard was one of the best players, if not the best player in the tournament from my standpoint.
Interesting. I thought that he maybe sometimes held the ball on just a little bit too much. He would beat three guys and then try to take on a fourth guy. Or, I thought a couple of times, especially as the tournament wore on, I thought that he was just trying to do maybe a little bit too much. And in the first match, I thought that he was definitely holding on to the ball too long. But I mean, he having said all of that, it's one of those where I have such high expectations for him. And so probably that's weighing on it. He did play very well. Okay, my next guy. Yeah, Kieran Trippier, outside back for England. I've seen him play for Spurs. I wouldn't have pegged him to be one of the best right backs at this tournament, and I think he stepped up. I mean, hitting in crosses, taking the set pieces, being pretty sound defensively as well. I mean, I thought that he was just good offensively and defensively for England, and he was just fantastic for them. So he was a player I was impressed with.
Yeah. A player. See, Trippier for me. I'll respond to you before I move on.
Bring it on.
I just don't know what it is about him, but there's something about him that I just can't get behind. Well, I mean, he clearly has arrogance in his face. I just can't deal with it. But I don't think he particularly played great. Like, I know you're saying you're impressed with him, but did you just have low expectations of him?
It might have been that, and it might have been that the way the England's formation was set up, it's very much catered to having the outside backs not have as much responsibility. So, meaning defensively. So they were in a 3-5-2, but when they were defending, it was a 5-3-2. And so the outside backs always had an additional center back there kind of supporting them. And, Henderson did a pretty good job at defensive midfield as well. So again, they weren't overly exposed. So that could definitely be playing a role there.
Okay. A player that impressed me, I think, oh man, I almost as much as Hazard, not quite, was Isco for Spain. I know they went out early, but he was a joy to watch, specifically during the group stage. He just dominated the ball every single time he had it. I honestly cannot remember one time him turning the ball over. Between when him and Iniesta were on the field, they looked like they were next level above anybody else that was around them. And I know that Iniesta didn't start was it in the knockout stage or the last group stage?
It was the knockout.
It was the knockout, right? Yeah. And I don't know if they just thought they had the game in the bag, but it was a mistake. And Isco just was so good, but kind of seemed isolated and like he had nobody around to help him a lot of the times.
There's that, and there's also Isco was almost too conservative for me. And specifically talking in the Russia match, he just didn't want to misplace a pass, so he would always take the easy option, which was to his left or right or back. And so he didn't try to play those probing balls. So I think you could have a little bit of criticism for him there.
Okay, that's fine.
Last player I wanted to highlight, but before I did that, Will from YouTube again said that Trippier had the most chances created in the tournament going into the match today. So I don't know if that's still the case, but he was influential offensively. Obviously, with him taking set pieces and England being so good at set piece creation, that played a role. But props to him for doing that. Last player I wanted to mention here, I got a couple, but I'm going to go with Varane. Again, he had some nervy moments today in the final, but on the whole, the tournament, I thought he was the best defender. He's just you almost don't even notice him sometimes, and he's just so good positionally. He's so good at recovering for other people's mistakes. He's enormous. He's fast. Like, he just has everything, complete package. I mean, he's one of the two best defenders in the world, central defenders in the world for me. Christian, I know you disagree slightly, but I wanted to highlight him.
I don't disagree that he's one of the best in the world. I don't think he is the best in the world right now.
I
That's the
think he
only
might
thing.
be. I think he
Okay,
might be.
I think he's up there, but I don't think he's number one right now.
I think he is.
Varane absolutely was one of the best players in the tournament. He is, and one of the things that you want as a center back is to go unnoticed a lot of the times. You don't want to be highlighted because most of the time when you're a center back and you're highlighted, it's because you're making mistakes. And you can ask Dejan Lovren about that as much as you want. I think that's a great thing for a defender. You kind of want to go under the radar. And he did his job substantially throughout the whole World Cup. He didn't make any mistakes of note that I can remember. Yeah, so that's my response to you. Good job again.
Thanks.
You're doing a great job.
I try so hard, and it just means a lot that you
my
recognize
final
that.
one who impressed me was Thibaut Courtois. I think that he's been criticized recently for Chelsea. He looked like the player who was at Chelsea the first year he was there and was at Atletico Madrid in the past. He was immense for Belgium. Didn't give up any chances that and he made saves he should never have been making. I was going to say Lloris until today when he made that awful mistake. I think he also deserves credit for how well he played. He made two incredible saves, one in the quarterfinal, one in the semifinal, both off headers. But I think Courtois was the best goalkeeper in this tournament. He just stood up when he needed to and was the player that Belgium needed back there.
Pickford, too. If we're talking about goalkeepers, I just wanted to throw his name in there. But I think I'm in agreement with you that Courtois may have been the best goalkeeper at the tournament. Him and his enormous neck. He's got the longest.
The giraffe.
It's insane. It's insane.
Here comes the Belgian giraffe.
Yes. But yeah, I thought he was the best goalkeeper. Do you want to talk quick about disappointing players?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I mean, I only have two, and they're the two center midfielders for Germany. I thought Khedira and Cruz were terrible. Like, I don't know. Yeah, Cruz got the goal against Sweden, and that was, highlights and all of that. Didn't think he played well in that match. And they were just exposed. Again, it was a tactical decision by Löw to set them up the way that he did, and it just left them exceptionally exposed. And I don't know if that's why they played so poorly, but they were missing passes. They were missing defensive assignments. I just expected so much more from them. And those are the only two players I really have here. Because, I mean, it's tough to really wrap my mind around who was big disappointment. So those were the two I wanted to mention.
Okay. Before we move on to disappointments, or for my disappointments, I want to throw in one more person who was very impressive and I think could have changed a lot of things had he been in the semifinal. Meunier for Belgium would have made a difference in that game. I absolutely thought he was missing against France, and I know you said that before the semifinal game, but yeah, good job again. Good work, Dave.
I'm just crushing it over here,
But I really didn't rate him that highly until I saw him again when he came back against England, and Belgium just completely looked a different team with him in there. He's just so solid. Absolutely. Okay, so now disappointments here. I'm going Gabriel Jesus, and I know you knew that was coming. I don't know if I want to blame him or Tite, or however you say his name. Chiche. It might be Chiche.
Tight. If you just phonetically pronounce it Tite.
Gabriel Jesus just was not good, and I'm sorry to say that, but he was really weak for Brazil up front. He did very little. He had one assist during the tournament, had no goals. I didn't think he really brought that much energy to the team. He has pace. He has the ability to dribble by people one-on-one, but I don't think we saw it that often. And I don't know if it was the tactical setup or what, but I was really, really disappointed with him throughout the entire tournament.
I can see that to an extent. I think Firmino fits the system better and the players more so. But I think Jesus, he must have been tactically instructed to stay high because he just stayed very high. And yeah, he would pull left and right, but he really was just trying to stretch the defense. And maybe that was him creating space for others. But individually, like on the ball and like you were saying, yeah, I don't think he had a great tournament.
Yeah. Another one I would say, I think PK didn't really have a great tournament either for Spain. I think he gave up too many chances. He handballed in the box with the ball over his head. I don't know what he was thinking there. Umtiti did it again too, but Umtiti won the World Cup, so I'm not going to highlight him as much. I just thought PK was really weak, and I didn't think De Gea had a good tournament either in goal, but I don't. Did he have one save in the whole tournament? He may
I
have
think
had
he
one.
had one.
Yeah, the Spain defense for the world-class talent they have was just a mess. And I just don't understand how, with that back line, the holding mid they have, and the goalkeeper that they have, how they could possibly have lost.
To Russia.
Yeah, to anyone. Like, that team
Well,
is
to
just
anyone. I mean, there are. I mean, I think specifically PK is the one. I think you're spot on. I think he's the one who's maybe getting up there a little bit. He's definitely not as fleet of foot as he used to be. I think he's a bit slow. Not that he always had a ton of pace, but maybe at least a little bit more quickness now. I don't even think he has that too much, and some of his decisions were pretty poor. I mean, also I can't remember, it may have been the Russia game when he came. Oh, no, it was the Morocco game where he came in 2-footed, studs up, like in like the 7th minute, and like he just didn't need to make, like, that should have been a red card, and it was just a terrible decision by him. Yeah,
absolutely.
I forgot about that. So yeah, he's a pretty good one to highlight as a disappointment.
All right, anyone else you want to highlight before we move along?
Nope. Let's keep it positive.
All right, who is? I know it's early. We're gonna do our way too early prediction here, Dave. I know you're not excited about it, but I'm very excited about it.
Okay.
Who are your teams to watch out for in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous to have this discussion. I mean, I'm basically going to pick the 3 youngest teams at this World Cup. So I'm not going to take them all because I'll let you take some. So
wow,
I'll
definitely
take.
We're about to take one of mine.
Yeah, so I'll take England, I guess. Again, they were the 2nd youngest team at this World Cup, tied with France. They have, a good manager who's developed a system. I think they need to have more tactical flexibility. They just stuck to that 3-5-2. There wasn't a lot of wrinkles to it, and I think that's why they eventually went out of the tournament. But I expect them to build off of all that momentum. The players are getting confidence. They won a penalty shootout. They've shaken off all those, I don't know, chains that used to weigh on English players. And so, let's look out for them in 2022. Now, having said that, can I just say this is a ridiculous conversation because we have no idea what's going to happen. There could be a player, Sessegnon could just break out and become the best player in the world. Or there could be some kid that we don't know. It's 4 years away. So much can happen in 4 years. This is a ridiculous conversation. So having said that, let's have it.
Jesus, my God, relax over there. This isn't a team that I expect to win the competition, but I think that they're going to be competitive, at least make the quarterfinals. I think Nigeria have a real shot from Africa. I think they were the youngest team in the tournament, and they impressed me. If in 4 years they're going to be better than Argentina were in this World Cup, and I think that they were better than Argentina on that day, honestly, specifically in the second half. Nigeria kind of fell apart late, but if they got through there, you never know. They are another team that are really entertaining to watch. They have a lot of attacking flair. They have players who were playing in Europe that you could recognize. They're pretty big names. And it'll be interesting to see how they can progress over the next 4 years.
They were on my list, so I agree with that one. And I'll take another one from Africa. I'll pick Senegal. They have just really talented players on some big teams in Europe. Most of them are still on the young-ish side. They may have another run with the core of them being in their best, age for soccer players. So, mid to late 20s. And so, I'll highlight them as well.
Think Africans are making a run in Qatar?
Yes, sure.
Yeah? All right, and my last one I'll highlight here. I'm going USA. Being bold here. I think teams to watch out for. They're going to be rebounding. They're going to be mad. They're going to be hungry. And I'm hoping to God that I'm right in saying this.
I hope so too.
I expect that this youth movement that we're kind of seeing now, they're really young. I still think it's going to be 2026 before we actually are somewhat competitive. But I think that they're going to get out of their group. They may win a knockout game. And there are a lot of young players who are starting to appear in Europe, starting to appear throughout MLS that could really shake things up in the World Cup in 2022.
I certainly hope so. And hopefully we're there, at least. I'd be happy with that.
Physically, us, me and you? We're going?
Well, maybe. I mean, never say never, but just the team, I should say.
This podcast is going to make us
the podcast.
Send us over there.
Yes.
All right. Anyone else you want to highlight? I know you don't really want to carry on this conversation, but
I'm ready to move on.
Okay.
Is there anyone else you would like to highlight?
No, I think that was it.
Okay, cool.
One more player I want to highlight before we move on. Sorry. One player that impressed me. I just remembered. I think Falcao did really well for Colombia throughout the tournament. I don't think he was really involved in the dirtiness that was happening in the Colombia team in that England game, but I was really impressed with his ability to just finish and hold up the play and link up with the players. And it would have been interesting to see if he was there 4 years ago, how that game against Brazil would have gone.
He was involved in yelling at the referee, I will say, but yeah,
He
wasn't
was.
quite
That
as
one
involved.
time he was freaking the fuck out but, on the penalty.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, favorite goal. What was your favorite goal in this tournament, Dave?
I literally have 8 here. So it's
I
tough
said favorite.
I know you said favorite, but there have been so many good ones. For me, it's one of the two kind of buzzer beaters, I'll call. I'll pick the Belgium goal versus Japan because it was the knockout round. And because it was build-up play and it was so similar to Landon Donovan's goal against Algeria in the 2010 World Cup, but it starts with a corner, Courtois collects it, rolls it out to De Bruyne. De Bruyne just drives through the Japanese defense. Lukaku makes that just absurd run to go outside to the right and then drag a defender in and then back out to create the space again. Lukaku doesn't touch the ball, but he makes the entire goal. De Bruyne makes the perfect decision and perfectly weighted pass out to the right to Meunier, who's bombing up the right side. He plays a fantastic cross in. Lukaku makes the right decision to not try to shoot the ball when there's a defender on his hip where it's likely going to be blocked, and Chadley just has a tap in. I mean, for me, that was so pretty, and it was in the 93rd minute. Game was 2-2. Belgium had been trailing by 2 goals. They take the lead 3-2 and qualify for the quarterfinals. For me, just the narrative, the buzzer beater effect of all of it, that was my favorite goal.
That was absolutely stunning team play goal. I agree with you. It's team play, it's counterattack, it's really attractive soccer, and absolutely up there for me as well. I'm going to be a little bit more basic in my choice. I think that volley from Pavard was just absolutely ridiculous. That goal deserves all the credit in the world. It completely changed the outlook of that game. It was Argentina were on top at that point. They were kind of controlling the game to start that second half, in my opinion. And if you give Messi space, if you have to push player forward, you don't know what he can do. He could honestly tear you apart. And the fact that that equalized completely changed the outlook and styles of the play. And I think just the technique that it takes for a right back to hit the ball the way that he did is unbelievable. If anyone does that, it's unbelievable. But he hit that so sweetly, pulled back, half volley, outside of the foot, while his foot was like up here, coming down, to go into the top corner. Caballero is not a great goalkeeper, and I'll say it a million. Oh, he wasn't in that game. Just kidding. It was the other guy. But still, I just want to throw in Caballero is awful. But
what the heck? Armani.
Yeah,
that was the goal.
It was a knockout game to equalize and completely change the outlook of the game.
Yeah. Anyone watching on YouTube, please let us know your favorite goal from the World Cup. Honorable mention, I mean, Ronaldo's free kick against Spain to complete his hat trick. He doesn't score free kick goals anymore. And on the world stage, team trailing, to step up and hit that. I mean, just wanted to throw that out there. And I have others. Messi's versus Nigeria. That was insane. Just for him to take the touch at full speed off his thigh, touch it with his same foot, and keep control. He completely wrong-footed the defender and finished with his weaker foot. I mean, just so pretty. And I'm sure there are others as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You good?
You are good, yeah. If anyone happens to throw some out on YouTube, I'll chime in here.
All right. I have favorite World Cup moment on here. Not specifically a goal, but just anything that happened, either in the game or outside the game that you enjoyed.
Yeah, so outside of the Belgium goal versus Japan, because that was it's my favorite goal, but also probably one of my favorite moments, probably the England penalty win. I mean, we have a lot of friends who are English, and to see them get that monkey off their back and to do it in the way that they did it, Pickford just coming up big, and I think they were trailing in the penalty shootout, right? Or they missed the first penalty. I can't remember exactly what happened, but for them to win, that was awesome for them. So I'll go with that one.
Yeah, honestly, that Pogba pass today might be one of my favorite moments. That was just absolutely ridiculous. Me and Matt just looked at each other and we're like, what the hell just happened? That technique is just almost like Pavard's goal. Like it is similar technique, but he played it 60 yards along the ground almost, or just above the ground. That is so difficult to do, and that is honestly one of my favorite moments. That mixed with the Batshuayi post incident, which is my favorite of the group.
Recap it for people. Yeah, recap it for people who may not know what we're talking about.
So, did he score? It was a goal, right?
And he was celebrating. He wasn't even the one that scored.
It wasn't but it was a goal, and he picked up the ball to celebrate and like kick it into the crowd almost. Like you see that all the time, but he kicked it against the post, and it came right back and hit him in the face, which was absolutely hilarious. And I saw him tweet yesterday. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see? Do you know what I'm going to talk about?
Nope.
No? Okay, so he tweeted yesterday, and he was responding to a tweet that said, like, who should win the golden ball. He goes, I should win the golden post. And I just was laughing hysterically again. He's just a really funny guy.
Yeah, him on social media was fantastic. That was so if we were going to go more lighthearted, it was just him on social media was fantastic. Mm-hmm. There was another one he posted where it's a bunch of the Belgian bench all looking stoic. It might be during the anthem or something like that. And he's looking confusedly down the line. He's the only one not like doing what everyone else is doing. And his caption is just, who farted? And it was just like, he was just so silly and lighthearted. And him on social media was one of the best things about the World Cup for me.
Absolutely agree.
Okay.
Anything else you want to highlight? Any moments or anything? No, you're good.
I mean, there were so many good ones. Yeah, so
well, I'm good with those. But it's the greatest show on earth. So,
Yes.
Need a moment of silence for everyone to take that in.
Yeah, I don't think is that what they? Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Let's just move past it.
Well, I mean, Beaver Stadium's technically the greatest show on earth. But... So, yeah, last thing I really wanted to discuss was how did Russia do with hosting? And side note is, how did Fox do with their coverage?
So Russia hosting, let's talk about that first. What happens in these tournaments is like the country just kind of puts on almost a facade, and like there's this like bubble of what's happening at the World Cup is not what's happening in the country. And so from that perspective, I mean, Russia did a fantastic job from all accounts. I mean, we weren't there in person, but all of the media reports, things we've read and heard, I mean, they did a fantastic job. The citizens were exceptionally nice to travelers, no major incidents or anything like that. So, I mean, by all accounts, it seems like Russia did a job in that little bubble. Now, there are all kinds of geopolitical and other issues going on in that country that I'm not knowledgeable enough to comment on. But in the World Cup bubble, I mean, it seems like they did a pretty good job.
I was very impressed with them. I think that they put on a really, really good World Cup. And there were no real incidents I heard of that were at least mainstream, where there was either hooliganism or anything. I kind of all went quiet, which was really, really nice to see. And it seemed like everyone I saw on media or social media or in coverage from Fox was just very friendly. They were getting to experience the culture in Russia and got to see all the different cities. Seemed like all the stadiums were full for almost every one of the games, which was really nice to see as well.
Yeah, because we've seen, I can't remember if it was in South Africa or Brazil, like there were some matches where like the stadiums were pretty empty. I can't remember too many incidents of Russia having that. There were a handful where there were maybe some empty seats, but for the most part, the stadiums looked pretty full.
Yeah.
So
and the atmospheres were really good, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to talk about Fox's coverage now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not that their coverage was fine. For me, I think it's clear. It's key to point out that the replays and camera angles and all that come from the world feed. So Fox doesn't actually control that. I think we've said on the podcast before, and I didn't necessarily know that throughout the tournament, that they don't control what's being shown on the television pretty much during the match. And so the fact that we didn't see Pickford's ridiculous save against Colombia, that wasn't necessarily Fox's issue. So I just wanted to point that out and cut them a little bit of slack. Now, having said that, I hated that they didn't bring all of the announcers to the games. So they had John Strong, Stu Holden, Tony Meola, and JP Dellacamera. Those were the two broadcast crews that were over there the entire tournament. Eventually that brought over Derek Ray and Ali Wagner for the a couple knockout round matches. But was that? So I think 2 or 3 other teams called from monitors the entire World Cup. Ali Wagner and Derek Ray called the group stage from monitors. And it's just half-assed to me. Why? They brought over a studio crew. They brought over equipment and everything like that. I know that we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars to put these people up in hotels, fly them all around through the duration of the World Cup. I get that to an extent, but it just seemed like half-assed coverage from them not to bring over everybody. So for me, I was really disappointed about that.
Yeah, I absolutely was disappointed with that as well. And I really didn't think they did a great job at covering everything. I know that people will disagree, but I was talking to people at work who don't really know soccer well, and they're saying, like, they didn't understand what the commentary team were talking about. They didn't really explain, and that's the point of commentary. It's not for people who know the game already. It's for people who don't and need explanation.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
But I think ESPN did such a better job. Their commentary was so much better.
But I don't think I think a lot of times Fox's commentary is just wrong. Like a lot of times what the analysts are saying, I think they're better as studio analysts than color commentators. I mean, we've harped on Warren Barton just saying things that we don't necessarily agree with, or just focusing on too many negatives, not being able to explain things, in the right way. I think what you need to do as an announcer is toe that line between over-explaining to people who maybe don't understand the game and just commenting on some of the nuance where hardcore fans already know kind of that, right? They already know all of the details. And so you just want to highlight things that maybe even somebody who's a dedicated fan isn't picking up on. I mean, that's really what you want to toe the line between. And I always skew more towards cover for hardcore fans. Other kind of generic fans will pick up on everything. And so, that's kind of where I stand on it. You disagree?
Okay. Yeah, I just think that the commentary should be more helpful to people who don't understand the game and I understand this is a soccer tournament. They're going to cater to soccer people, but there are so many neutrals that watch this. This is the biggest sporting event in the world. It's once every 4 years. It's similar to the Olympics. You want people who are going to describe how the game works. And I know the play-by-play people are saying, like, oh, this person has the ball and all that. But the color commentators, I think, just need to be better at analyzing the game. I didn't think they did a great job of it.
Fair enough. And I just wanted to throw out, I mean, I got all of my analysis pre and post World Cup from podcasts and media sources that I kind of maybe value a little bit more. So I don't have a ton of commentary on. I know they did like World Cup Tonight. I didn't watch a second of that. I watched very little pre and post coverage, a little bit of halftime shows. So I can't even really comment on that, which might be saying something in and of itself. So I just wanted to highlight that.
I know a lot of people had problems with the booth that was happening during halftime, pregame, and postgame. A lot of people were saying that they didn't understand the people who were talking, which is a different thing altogether. That's because, I mean, this English is their second language or less half the time for a lot of the people that were in the booth. So, I mean, I don't really blame them for that. And that's going to happen.
You say booth, you mean the pre-show?
Yeah. Whatever.
The booth would be the commentary team, right?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But the studio analyst.
The studio. Yeah. Sorry. Wrong word. Yeah. A lot of people were complaining about that.
And that's somewhat fair. I mean, at the end of the day, they're on American, television trying to communicate in English, and there needs to be an element of, yes, these guys are incredibly bright minds that from a soccer perspective, but at the end of the day, they need to be able to communicate. And there were a couple issues with that. I can understand. Yeah.
But the people they brought in, I think, are very, very intelligent people who have played the game, who made it far in these types of tournaments. So I don't blame the people that they brought in. But if this is what they're going to do, if they're going to cover soccer in the United States, you have to be able to explain yourself in a way that a semi-neutral fan is going to completely understand what's going on. And I don't think that was done
fair enough
appropriately. All right.
Cool.
Anything else you have on this World Cup that you wanted to bring up?
Fantastic World Cup. I mean, this was the first World Cup in our lifetime that the U.S. wasn't involved in. I don't think either of us knew what to expect from it. And, as sad as it was that the U.S. wasn't in it, I mean, covering it the way that we did, I mean, I watched every single minute of every game, 64 matches. I have a tweet lined up for tomorrow with some analytics of everything we did to cover it. And I mean, it was just fantastic. So many goals. There was only 1-0-0 match. That was in the group stage, France and Denmark. There was a ton of attacking soccer, great goals, ton of narrative. I mean, this was just a fantastic tournament. So thank you, anybody who has joined us. I know we've picked up a lot of new listeners and whatnot. Thank you for joining us, interacting with us. We've had, I think, 9 guests on the podcast throughout this tournament. And, we couldn't be more happy and grateful that you've been along for this ride. So thank you so much.
More happy.
What?
Not happier. We're going to go more happy.
More happy? Happier?
I don't think that's it. I think it's happier, right?
We'll consult the expert. You go. I'll talk to the missus.
Yeah, Kristen, let us know. Is there anything else you wanted to
do you want to say anything about the World Cup?
Oh, yeah, sure. That's a good point. Let me do that. Okay. So I thought the World Cup was handled really, really well by Russia, as we discussed. And I think that it was so fun to watch. There were so many goals. This is something you don't really get to see often. And in the World Cup, you usually see a lot of teams that sit back defensively, and it's just more negative, more pragmatic. This World Cup was nothing like that. And they were set pieces galore, which is really, really fun to watch. And I don't think that when you watch club soccer, it's rare that you get to see a lot of goals off of set pieces. A lot of times because teams defend and practice that over and over again as a club, and you just have more familiarity with each other, and you know where each other is supposed to be, who you're supposed to be marking a little bit better. But it was just awesome to watch all the goals that kept flowing in every single game.
Absolutely. Well said. Quick update. First off, Kristen does not like being called the missus. She thinks it makes her sound old, so I will refrain from doing that. And second of all, more happy or happier could work in her opinion. So technically I was okay. So there you go. I know listeners, you were all just waiting at the edge of your seat for that update. That's weird that we use the same analogy there.
Is it weird? It's
I know.
Almost like our parents do that.
Yeah, we're basically the same person.
Same.
Same, but different. All right. Cool. So, overall, just fantastic World Cup. Thank you all.
Is there any wrap up? Anyone you want to thank before we move along?
Hey, I want to thank you, Christian, for hosting.
Me?
No, but in sincerity, I mean, we're going to be trying to do some different things. So podcast listeners who have been with us for a while, we're going to be doing some different things moving forward. We're going to try to get Matt and Christian a little bit more involved in hosting. If you picked us up and followed us during the World Cup, we really appreciate you joining us for this. As we go on, it's going to be a little bit different. We're not going to get really detailed and tactical analysis. We generally more talk about what's going on in the soccer world, specifically from an American, little bit of English, and then just kind of generic soccer perspective. So, we hope that you continue with us on our journey. We record on Sunday, so please, stick with us throughout. We would greatly appreciate it, and we would love to hear from you. So if you want to get in contact with us on Twitter, Christian, where can they find us?
They can find us on Twitter at BT Soccer Pod.
Yes, they can. Christian and I are tweeting from that account,
or
which
you
confuses.
Could tweet at us directly, which is at dknitz11 or at ckniddle12.
Wow, yes.
I'm trying to remember what Matt's is. Is it MPK8110 or no?
That's his
his email.
Penn State email.
That's his
whatever.
old email too. Yeah.
I think he's at Matthew Kniddle, I believe, is what he is.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so I know.
So you don't have to.
Exactly. Christian and I both tweet from at BT Soccer Pod, which can confuse people sometimes. So it's almost like a crapshoot on which of us you're talking to. So that's fun.
Yeah, it's like split personality, as you said today.
Yes.
We're very bipolar on that site.
Exactly. People who, exactly. It's especially funny because Christian and I have a lot of differing views on soccer and the way we communicate. So it's kind of hilarious, looking at our Twitter feed sometimes.
I don't know if you'll ever be able to tell which one of us is talking. It's very difficult.
You would very easily be able to tell which one is talking. Christian, if people...
We're both very docile.
Yeah. If people want to email us, do you know what our email is by chance?
At bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com.
Yes, bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. And if people want to check out our website is brostalkingsoccerpodcast.com. Christian, what can people do there?
They could do a lot of things there. They could click around, figure out what they want to do there.
Yes, I'm trying to involve you more in this.
I know, I understand. They could go to the little store that we have on the top, and if they want to buy something on Amazon, they click in there. It's no additional cost to you at all, but to support us financially, since we make no money on this and really would appreciate any type of support that you could give. There's a bunch of stuff we have listed on the store there, and if you buy something on there, we get a piece of the proceeds. But again, no cost to you at all.
Yep. And again, it would just really help us out. We would greatly appreciate that. Again, that's linked in the video description and podcast show notes. I know I'm wrapping up here, but we have a question from Kid Fiction 101 on YouTube. Great question. What was the best save of the tournament for you, Christian?
Oof.
You want to think?
Definitely know what it is.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Definitely going with Lloris's save. I think the one against Uruguay was the most important save of the tournament, in my opinion. At that time, it was 1-0 to France, and if that goes in, 1-1 is a completely different game. Uruguay were clearly missing Cavani, but if they got him back later in the tournament, you don't know how far they could have gotten. And I think that was a huge, pivotal moment.
For me, it was a similar save, but for me, it was Kawashima versus Poland in the group stage for Japan. And this one went under the radar. Not too many people were following it, but there was a cross sent in by Poland. The guy heads it. I can't remember the Polish player's name around the penalty mark. And Kawashima is on the goal line, shuffling across his net when the contact is made with the guy's head. He has to take maybe 2 shuffles to his right, do a full extension save, gets his hand on it, claws it off the goal line, and keeps it out. For me, it was very similar to, I think, the Lloris save, Christian, you're talking about, but Lloris didn't have to move quite as far and do as much of a full extension. So for me, I thought that Kawashima save was insane. Honorable mention.
Lloris also, I think Lloris had to get up quicker, too, to react to the second save as well. So
did he save it?
Bit different.
Yeah,
he didn't, but he definitely made his body bigger so that Godin had to place it perfectly.
Absolutely. I think the Pickford save in the Colombia match can be mentioned here as well. Kid Fiction, I mean, feel free to let us know what your favorite save will.
Definitely the South Korean goalkeeper as well against Germany. Was it against Germany? I can't remember. Was another one. I think it was against Germany.
He had a couple good saves. Yeah, the South Korean keeper who I remember listening to another podcast. I think he plays on like the worst team in South Korea.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
So hopefully you're most likely he'll be getting it.
Courtois against Neymar also in the 95th minute was also a crazy save. But I don't think it was as high profile.
Fair enough.
Important time, but different.
Yeah, and in fairness, I mean the Lloris save that you highlighted, Christian, was definitely in a higher pressure situation, had a bigger impact, for the World Cup. Mine just straight like taking all sort of narrative and pressure situation.
You just saw a video of saves. You mean
exactly? So I would probably say that one. So Christian, anything else you wanted to add?
I think that's it.
All right, cool. Listeners, we've already done our wrap up here. So again, you can get in contact with us at BT Soccer Pod, email bros.talkingsoccer@gmail.com, or check out but also please check out our website, brostalkingsoccerpodcast.com. Listeners, thank you so much. Hope to talk to you next weekend. People on YouTube, thank you so much for being here and interacting with us. Christian, thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to do this. It was really fun for these last 32 days.
Yeah, this was fantastic. So thank you all so much, and we will talk to you soon. See you, everybody.
Next week.